Hello, this is still Luke from Dimphna's Devotion. God bless you on this day. I am webcam free for this video for reasons not relevant right now. I wanted to hurry up and tackle this topic while it's still somewhat fresh. I know it's over a week old, but for this topic, I wanted to meditate on it, listen to a lot of other responses so I'm not repeating the same points that have already been made, at least too much. I also prayed on this, so I would respond from a place of love instead of a place of hostility. I am, after all, a faulty, flawed, fallible human. If you're not Catholic and listening to this, then this may mean nothing to you. At least half, if not more, of my patron saints are female, as far as I've discovered. Every single one of my patron saints have something in common: obedience and submission to God's will, whether the patron saint is male or female. I don't have anything against women overall. This is not coming from a misogynistic viewpoint per se. I'm just looking for a little more balance in our society. That's, something that's been missing for a really long time. Tomi Lahren, pardon me if I'm mispronouncing her last name, is an easy target on the conservative side, especially lately with her breakdown of Gen Z men. She has already been dunked on, mocked, insulted, and canceled, even from conservatives, which will certainly make no difference to her. Not like she'll ever see this video anyway, but I'm going to invite her out of charity to, at the very least, ponder some things over after I've made my points. First of all, let's revisit what she said. I might even read into a little of the body language and face expressions. Not that I'm an expert, but just to stress that she really believes what she's saying.
Yeah.
Okay, look at her. Slow blink, tight smile, slow shake of the head from side to side, and her eyebrows are arched as such over the fiery stare that she's ready to tear into a group of people she really disapproves of. Deep inhale with another slow blink. Expressive exhale as she lets her pearly whites show.
It's a major problem. And Speaker Johnson has been talking about those maybe deadbeat.
Tomi certainly showed effort in making herself appear as appeasing to the eye as possible, as if to send a message to lazy Zoomers of what they're missing if they just listen to her life advice.
Yeah.
Then maybe one day, just maybe, they'll be with a woman who looks just like her, which might not really be a good thing. Everything from her appearance to her face expressions to her words comes from a specific box of thinking. You can tell she's slightly aggravated, and she thinks she's certainly justified in what she's about to say. I'll let her take it away.
Folks that are on Medicaid, and maybe some of those folks are the stay-at-home sons, we don't know. But I'll tell you this, leave it to Gen Z to rebrand laziness and social awkwardness as something cutesy, like a stay-at-home son. They did.
I want to know where she's seeing this cutesy stay-at-home son label. I don't have TikTok because I care about my sanity, but where is she seeing these representatives of Generation Z that are stay-at-home sons? The quiet quitting she refers to isn't even exclusive to Zoomers. I've seen representatives from every generation follow the quiet quitting philosophy, even explicitly calling it what it actually is: laziness.
Much the same thing with quiet quitting, where you can go to work and do less, and if you call it quiet quitting, it's somehow better.
But at the same time, you could also defend quiet quitting with calling it what it also is: just doing the work what you're paid to do, solely doing the work that you are paid to do and not exceeding, because, well, companies are only going to attribute that to their own success and not to your success most of the time. But you know what? We can get into the corporate culture a little bit later.
But Laura, I got to tell you, this is also a big problem when it comes to, I think, declining birth rates, people not getting married and having children.
Declining birth rates, people not getting married, yes, these are problems. There are a lot of bad things in this world today that are our problems, or they negatively affect us. But all of these things are not our problems to solve. Yes, we have been equipped with combating these problems. We should be praying for the birth rates to increase, for more people to get married, but we do that by surrendering it to God first. Then as we pray and surrender what we cannot control over to God, we should be living our own lives in accordance to God's will.
You know, that's a big problem. They blame it on women.
They blame it on women. Who are they? Who is this they that she refers to? I mean, in 2025, a single person can identify as a they-them. I'd like her to be a little more specific with who she is accusing of pointing blame at women.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I'm being cheeky.
Well, look at what young women have to choose from. The pickings are slim. Yes, we might have a feminism problem.
Look at what young women have to choose from. The pickings are slim. Are they? What attributes must a model picking carry to qualify? By the way, I am single, and in the dating market, I can get into all day of what my pickings are, but we'll put that on the shelf for now to let Tomi finish her point.
In America, but it's the feminization of men. There are a lot of young women out there that want to get married. They want to have kids. They want to have stable families. But there are a lot of young men out there who want to live in mama's basement and order DoorDash. And therein lies a big part of the problem.
There are a lot of young women out there that want to get married. Okay, where are they? Are they only in Texas? Are there really a lot of men who don't want to get married? Because that's not what I'm seeing. I've been wanting to get married for years now, but my pickings have been less than slim, both figuratively and literally.
There are a lot of young women out there that want to get married. They want to have kids. They want to have stable families.
They want to have kids. They want to have stable families. But they just don't seem to want to prioritize those things based on my observations. I observe that women want to have careers and want men to have more successful careers than they do first and foremost. But we'll get into more of a rundown on that later.
But there are a lot of young men out there who want to live in mama's basement and order DoorDash. And therein lies a big part of the problem.
A lot of young men want to live in mama's basement and order DoorDash. Interesting how she specified mama instead of parents. What mindset is this coming from, do you think? Comment below why you think, and make sure to specify that you have a hunch why Tomi said mama's basement and not parents' basement. I won't ask you to ponder why she mentioned DoorDash instead of Uber Eats. It doesn't carry the same significance. By the way, I am getting hungry. Maybe I should see what kind of deals are available on DoorDash right now. Plenty of room in my mom's basement to eat it, too.
Well, and also with the rise of AI and AI dating, as they call it.
Laura Ingraham mentions the rise of AI, but she doesn't make the AI point that I was hoping she would make. She refers to AI in her example of men preferring to date AI virtual girlfriends over real women, like in the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix. I would love to see where Laura Ingraham is getting this idea that more men are preferring to date robots and virtual girlfriends over flesh and blood girlfriends. I mean, is that what her son is doing right now? If Laura Ingraham has a son, I don't know. I don't follow her personal life.
Which is sick.
By the way, AI dating is sick. I won't dispute that. But I'm not really seeing that as a significant problem right now. So not really relevant.
I also blame the social conditioning of the COVID era, the dumbest era in modern American history, because a lot of people, especially these young people, they grew up like this, thinking that it was safer at home, thinking that outside was dangerous, interacting with people was scary. So now you got people that want to literally stay inside and play video games and have AI girlfriends, and that's why we have declining birth rates and a lot of other problems in society. It's time to go out, get a job, breathe the fresh air, meet people in real life. Let's just get back to basics.
Anyway, Tomi finally does get into something I cannot dispute, and I absolutely do agree with. But I don't believe it is worth the full credit toward the low birth rate and low marriage problem that has been a problem actually long before COVID. It may still be a contributing factor today, but not as significant as the problem or as the reasons I'm about to explore. There's a lot of weight here to what I'm about to put down. But it's a good thing someone already carried much of that weight for me before I proceed. Here's Andrew Wilson in a debate with Tomi Lahren, opening up the points I'm about to tackle on Piers Morgan. By the way, pray for Piers Morgan for his Catholic conversion. I love that guy.
There's basically all masculinity is now considered toxic, basically all of it. The same women who are getting their double shot of espresso on the way over to the school they're about to teach at, they're 24 years old. Sometimes they're banging their own students, right? Hilariously enough. And then these people go out to Parliament. The same women will go to Parliament. They vote to send men off to war to stab each other in the face with bayonets. And you're concerned about toxic masculinity. It cracks me up. It's like the brutal savagery of men is a necessary precondition for society to exist. And we just kind of pretend like it's not.
Yeah.
Andrew points out that over time, the standards toward men have never changed, but the standards for women have spiked within the past 100 years or so, especially when they earned the right to vote, which is a right most women at that time didn't want. If you know your history, most don't. And oftentimes they end up worse than Tomi Lahren.
Yeah.
There's plenty of double standard to unpack here. Let's pause this debate between Andrew and Tomi. Remember when I said there's a lot of weight to what I'm about to put down? Well, here's Carl Benjamin to help out with some more of that weight when he dissected the Gen Z boss in a mini video that made a lot of rounds last year.
I don't think it's unfair to say that modern feminism has deeply impacted corporate culture, not only in deliberate affirmative action programs for women, but also in an unconscious bias in favour of women, which makes it evident men are being actively discriminated against in the workplace. This is not a new phenomenon. Take, for example, one data analysis done in 2016 by recruitment firm MoveMeOn.com. After analysing 20,000 applications, they found that women were 35% more likely to be hired for a job than a man. As one might expect, this is having a severe detrimental effect on the motivation of young men. Bloomberg News analysed US government data which revealed that a fifth of young educated men were not employed and not looking for work. As one young man put it, "It feels kind of delusional now, but I was thinking I could get a $100,000 a year job." But after applying to about 500 jobs, he became discouraged. "When I was at the point where I didn't even have one interview for anything, I feel like a failure right now. It definitely messed with my mental health." What I'm saying is that a fair left-wing analysis of this situation might conclude that young women have a privilege that the men don't have, and the fact that they can be so cavalier with their time and output seems to show it.
Young women have a privilege that the young men don't have. Today, especially. Let that sink in for a minute. Pause the video if you need to and make a few Google searches on your own to see if anyone else has made this same observation. Whether or not you have paused the video, we're going to continue. Let's fast forward a little to the Delta plane flip in Toronto that happened earlier this year.
You may remember in February this year that a Delta/Endeavour Air plane crashed on landing in Toronto. It seems that the plane did not suffer a mechanical fault, but instead it was a pilot error from the first officer that caused it to flip over before coming to rest, and it was a miracle that nobody was killed. Though Endeavour Air have not yet made any official announcements about who the first officer was, rumours quickly began to circulate and internet sleuths began to dig, and they came to the conclusion that the first officer was 26-year-old Kendall Swanson, who apparently scrubbed her social media shortly after the accident. And it seems that Endeavour Air operate a feminist affirmative action program for their pilots, which means that now more than half of their pilots are women. The reason that people are convinced that this is an example of a prime woman moment is because there is a feeling that women have a way of avoiding accountability that men don't.
Let's meditate on this for a minute, at minimum. How many job applications have you filled out in your life? How many times has your professional future been at the hands of a woman? Have you ever been in a situation where you were getting fired? Did the ratio of women outnumber the ratio of men in the room at the time, not counting yourself, who was receiving the execution, if this has happened to you? Now, think of one question at a time. Think of each question on its own merits, one at a time. How do you think these individuals were at performing their own duties? Okay, think about that on its own, it often shows with how well of an oiled machine that company is. Don't you think? If a leader comes to the decision that he or she must fire their subordinate, then a part of that reason comes from at least the acknowledgement, to an extent, they failed in their own responsibility as a leader to not only choose the right candidate, but to also assist the candidate in overcoming the hurdles of the responsibilities involved in the position. I know many times it is completely the candidate's fault. I mean, most of the time, if somebody gets fired, hands down, it's completely their responsibility that he or she is getting fired. More often than not, right? We can agree with that. But what do you think the ratio is today of men getting fired over women? We could probably debate that until the cows come home. But what do you think the difference in women's privilege over men's privilege is? What have you observed? Let's go back to the debate between Andrew and Tomi. And we're not going to, to keep it relevant to the point, we're not going to talk about the my body, my choice stuff. Although that is a problem that does relate to what we're talking about here, but not in the way leftists think.
And this show should actually be an indictment on the feminine rather than the masculine, because basically masculinity is just punished everywhere, all the time, nonstop.
Let's pick back up where Andrew stresses the point that women need to have feminine virtues, and watch Tomi's reaction carefully. She seems to laugh that off as if she disagrees that women need to have feminine virtues.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just more feminine or feminist nonsense, ultimately. And the covert feminism in society is big, especially on the conservative side. So here's what happens, right? Women need to have feminine virtues for men to be pursuing masculine virtues, for you to say things like, well, men, what I want is for men to protect me and I want men to make money. Well, that's great.
Tomi goes from confused to laughing when Andrew says, are we getting chaste virgins on our wedding night? No, we're not getting chaste virgins on our wedding night. And then she goes back from laughing to confused again. Now, is that something Tomi falls into? Do you think she was a chaste virgin on her wedding night with her professional athlete coach husband? I mean, he probably doesn't care. He might not be either. But don't you think that's another part of the overall problem? Let's continue.
What that ends up doing is it gives you a set of privilege in society. What do men get? What do men get for doing that for you? What are we getting from women for doing that? Are we getting chaste virgins on our wedding night? No, we're not getting chaste virgins on our wedding night. Are we getting women of great virtue?
A woman of valor who can find.
Yes, Nicodemus, a woman of valor who can find indeed. I'm glad this is a problem that's been plaguing us for over 2 millennia and not just 100 years. That clip will always age well. Yet we still just can't figure it out.
No, we're not getting women of great virtue. The idea of courtly love is supposed to be done for women of great virtue. Where are they? Well, they're nowhere. And so in modernity, in society, when female conservative influencers say this, it's actually a form of covert feminism. They're saying, I want privilege in society, right? But what is it women are giving to men to get it? What?
Yeah.
Notice Tomi's facial response when Andrew brings up women wanting privilege in society. What is actually going on in her mind when she heard those words? She certainly didn't dispute being a covert feminist, did she?
No, I would love to. I love this whole thing of like, if you're a female conservative and you don't believe that men should be douchebags, that all of a sudden you're a covert feminist. Call me a feminist. I really don't give.
Tomi doesn't care about being called a covert feminist because that's more than likely what she is. Maybe this is the real definition of a grifter that I keep hearing get thrown around in the social media circles. You know what this kind of reminds me of? That conservative woman who claimed to be the mother of Elon Musk's most recent child on X earlier this year. She also posed in a particular conservative women calendar that received a lot of criticism last year. If there's any dots to connect between those 2 points, then perhaps you can connect them on your own. I'm more focused right now on responding to Tomi's argument in today's video.
A lot of these men, these podcast hosts on the right that like to think of themselves as these big masculine men, and what am I getting out of it? I can tell you this.
There's that feminism.
All right, I believe I'm a woman of virtue, right?
Out.
Even as Andrew taunts Tomi during her rambling, he still makes better points that Tomi doesn't directly address, but rather dismisses with sarcasm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to speak over a man?
Yeah, I don't care if you call me. I don't really care if you call me a
strong,
feminist.
independent woman.
Yeah. 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 Okay.
You mean the truth?
Like I said before, so I believe there we go again. Piers, I'm a woman of virtue. I happen to be independently successful. I have a husband who's not only a former professional athlete, but is currently a professional baseball coach. So is he not a masculine man?
Wasn't she formerly engaged to someone in the military? Was it a Green Beret or a Ranger? Or a Navy SEAL guy? I think it was a SEAL, Navy SEAL guy, right? What happened with that? Well, we could take bets on how long her current marriage will last, but that's a little messed up, just a little too mean-spirited. We don't need to get personal here, but Tomi clearly has no problems taking things personally, does she? And she also has no problems making things personal, because at no point did Andrew actually insult Tomi, but Tomi didn't hold back from insulting Andrew.
Masculine man. Mine is a man who respects me.
Yeah, that misses the point, though. Like, you're still not contending with the argument that I'm making.
What's your point?
I'm saying inside of society, right this second, right, masculinity is not only punished, but also women on the right, covert feminists on the right, are constantly and consistently talking about how they need to have privilege in society. I want men. Their version of masculinity is men who take care of us, men who protect us, men who do all of this. Those are all duties that men have towards women. Great. What are the duties that women have towards men? What are the duties that women have towards anything? What do men get out of this arrangement? What are we getting out of this arrangement? Can you tell me?
Piers, I offer nothing.
Tomi admits she doesn't understand the point Andrew makes, and I think Andrew was perfectly clear on his point. I'm glad Tomi already understands the man's role in a marriage, but she fails to define what the woman's role in a marriage is. Hence the root of our societal problem. Too many women unable to define what a woman is from the left, and too many women failing to define a woman's role in a marriage from the right. Many women want the cream of the crop, the absolute best of the best, the arm candy to all their social events and galas and blah, blah, blah. Many, and keep in mind that I stress many and not all, many women punch as high as they can when they're in the dating market. Ultimately, there's nothing wrong with that by itself. I think everyone should have standards. But what is it that many of these women prioritize? Seems to me like they prioritize career over godliness, which connects to Carl Benjamin's earlier observation. There's nothing wrong with women wanting men to be fit, handsome, successful, confident, making sacrifices. But what standards are they holding to themselves, or herselves more appropriately, since we are talking about biological women here only, okay? Earlier this year, I made a video discussing how I think a lot of women are today because of men. I left a lot of details out, and I was pretty unfair in that video. That video was less than half-baked. I will have to make a sequel to that video. Next time I return to that subject, I want to make sure to make it a lot more even. I pulled a clip from a show I don't watch regularly, but I did want to look up Andrew Wilson because I've never heard of him before. Here's a clip from Louder with Crowder. I know Crowder had his own personal problems that rose to the public surface in the past 3 years regarding his relationship with the Daily Wire, and then right after that, his divorce. Those are not things that are worth focusing on right now because, well, Crowder isn't even in this clip anyway. Here's Andrew talking about fake Christian women.
This is about to get taken out of context, but a lot of women will ride the carousel for a lot of their life. And when they want to reform, they will move into kind of weaker churches where they can kind of keep the progressive attitudes, right? They can keep the progressive attitudes. And what they're really looking for is not being judged. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be judged. Well, what's really going on is they're trying to kind of jockey their faith into buying a new reputation.
Yeah.
And I see that. I call these types of women sewing circle Christians. And I believe that this is one of the biggest problems in Protestant churches that there is that there's lots and lots of women who want to leverage their faith to buy a new reputation. And what they're supposed to be doing is falling on their knees, begging for forgiveness, right? And doing everything in their power to create a reconciliation between, between their past and their faith through humility.
Yeah.
That's the point, right? Not to buy a new reputation. That would be the opposite of Christian ethics, right?
Yeah.
What's the connection from this clip to the subject matter of today's video? Tomi claiming to be Christian, but also being pro-choice. Yes, this is a publicly made fact by Tomi herself, that Tomi Lahren is pro-choice, but also claims to be Christian. The two conflict. Is Tomi really even a conservative at all? And this goes for all of you Catholic women or women who claim to be Catholic and Christian of any kind. You cannot be pro-choice. You cannot be for abortion for any reason at all whatsoever if you actually want to be a proper Christian. If you want to enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to abandon your stance toward abortion. You have to be pro-life. You cannot be pro-choice and enter the kingdom of heaven. Tomi, I understand making a ruckus and flipping tables. I'm Catholic. I flipped over plenty of tables and probably burned a fair share of bridges on social media over my stances. I am called by God to be a martyr for my faith, and I refuse to back down. But when you generally call men trash and blatantly attack a minority of individuals that you may or may not have seen on TikTok and Instagram, then what are you contributing? Did Jesus call the Pharisees and scribes trash? No, he never insulted anyone. He never sought to tear flesh because he was perfect in all his arguments and addressed everyone matter-of-factly from a place of love. Jesus was also never sarcastic. That's what you're missing, Tomi. I can agree with a lot of what you're saying. Not everything, but your points get lost in your pathos, your emotion. Your lack of diplomacy comes out every time you attempt to criticize. When Jesus spoke, he never lacked diplomacy. Am I comparing the Tomi Lahren to Jesus? No. The comparisons I'm simply making are due to the goals and motives of flipping a table. Jesus was a rabbi, a teacher, if you will. He didn't get angry over the drop of a hat with everything he didn't approve of. And he's the Son of God. He's also all man, all God. So imagine how many things he saw that he disapproved of. Jesus had perfect tact, perfect diplomacy, and perfectly reasonable responses for every single offense done toward God. That's certainly a page we all need to take out of that playbook. Yes, Jesus flipped tables and chased people with a whip. He also died on a cross, a very humiliating death, so that we could get into heaven, so that we could stand a chance. There are many pages to take out of the playbook, but if we were all in a room right now, and I asked you, the viewers, who all got upset over trivial arguments, I know every hand would raise, including my own. But did anyone in this room ever storm into a church known for these nightmare Novus Ordo masses and declare this is an offense to God's house and Calvary? No hand would raise there, I'm sure. By the way, for context, that was not a call to action. You asked God how to adequately respond to heresy first. I'm a man who is a little past his prime. I'm part of the middle-class income, and I'm in the dating game. It's been a deserted wasteland for longer than I like to admit, but that's the reality I live in. Has it been my fault for being single this long? More times than I'd like to admit. I've most definitely made a lot of bad decisions throughout my life in terms of career choices or moving to a different city and state more times than I should have. Or maybe on more than one occasion let the right woman get away. I won't deny I've probably missed some great opportunities during times I just didn't feel worthy or ready. That still doesn't mean all my options right now are absolutely perfect. I by no means want to compare myself to the likes of St. Louis Martin or St. Joseph or St. Isidore the Farmer, but I am an earnest, devout, practicing Catholic man. I'm not a rad trad that wishes we never left the 1800s, but I am more of a traditionalist. I love video games from time to time, but I don't spend hours on them in one sitting. I wouldn't describe myself as lazy. I work out. I attend Mass at least every Sunday for sure, absolutely every Sunday. I don't miss Sunday Masses. If not, every once in a while, the occasional weekday Mass. I keep up with the first Saturday devotions. I pray all throughout the day, every day. I maintain custody over my eyes to not entertain lustful fantasies. I try to remain as polite as I possibly can to strangers. I am a little outgoing, but I also keep to myself a lot. I love to read. I have other healthy hobbies that involve exercising my imagination and creativity, such as drawing and writing. After all, I've been doing this channel for over half a year. The last 3 relationships I've been involved in recent years, all 3 women wanted to take it to a certain activity in the bedroom that I've already been guilty of in my younger years, and I don't want to make that mistake again. Not before marriage, and even then, only if we're ready to have kids. Otherwise, my options for dating are women who I'm probably too short for by like 2.5 inches, not white collar enough for, or they're too obese for me, or they don't know what they're looking for in a relationship, not ready to settle down, period, or I'm too religious for them. Yeah, somehow in a world where we've seen how self-destructive godlessness can be with politics, pandemics, forced vaccines, a warmongering Russian leader, gender dysphoria, North Korean and Chinese dictators, and it's God-fearing folk who are the bad guys. Oh my goodness. Look, I hate adding to drama, and I'm not looking to. The fact of the matter is, if you're making these arguments public, and it's spreading a lot of damage, I have to make these disputes public, because if I don't, then I'm not being charitable, and I'm not standing for my faith. I'm not standing for the truth either, and I need to fight for the truth. More people need to fight for the truth. More people have to take a stand against this, because we should have had enough of this psyops and the brainwashing after 2020. So what I'm telling you right now, if I'm making any kind of a call to action, fight for the truth by making your voice heard. I don't care how few followers you have. Just make yourself heard. I don't mean to sound upset or angry. I haven't devolved the argument to name-calling and senseless insults. I want to continue to keep it peaceful, but there is a sense of urgency to this problem. We do have a very real population decline, which is something Tomi Lahren was actually right about. So good on her for pointing that out. I agree. Birth rates are down. Weddings are not something we're seeing too much of anymore. Divorces are up. Obesity is up. It's up more for one particular gender than it is for another if you narrow it down to the singles camp. Predominantly with younger women in their 20s and 30s. Yes, there are exceptions. Men are still held to the same fitness standard, while more women promote body positivity. Again, I don't want to ignore the exceptions to that rule. There are pious women who are in great shape and earnestly looking for decent men, but they have a lot more options than the pious men who are in great shape and earnestly looking for decent women. It's not a great ratio. It isn't. It might be different if you live in a bigger city or even depending on your religious preference, but there's a massive double standard to what Tomi Lahren is addressing. I'm sure Protestants have no problems finding each other, but yeah, devout Catholic men, options aren't so great in finding devout Catholic women. Most of the Catholic women, devout Catholic women, are elderly, are married already. Now, I'm going to be honest here, but I'm not going to talk down to anyone in particular. I've been watching some content creators on here who have really been making me smile lately, and it's worth bringing them up to balance out what sounds like a lot of negatives that I'm responding to. Julie Nicole and Melanie Mack are currently my 2 favorite women who are not quite Catholic yet. Julie Nicole is a lot closer to being a complete Catholic convert, but I also think Melanie Mack is practically Catholic, but she just doesn't know it yet. There are some things Melanie Mack still got to work on. Yes, Melanie has a divorce under her belt, but she doesn't have any kids, so she could easily get an annulment for that marriage, for that divorce, if she hasn't already, to invalidate the marriage. Melanie Mack is not damaged goods. Melanie Mack is a child of God. Here's a little update on Melanie Mack's progress as of late.
I'm not going to say that this is something I'm going to regularly do because I don't know yet. all I'm saying is last night I was reading 1 Corinthians chapter 11, I believe it is, that talks about women veiling in the church. But as I was reading it last night, I was like, I don't know, this seems like it actually is talking about a veil. And again, I don't know if this is something that I'm going to feel convicted to do in every video or at church every week. At least for now, I just felt like it would be a good idea. Like, I'm trying my best as a believer, so of course it helps to hear from other believers. I want to present myself in a respectful way, because I am a woman, and on this channel it's never my intention to try to usurp authority over men or to try to put myself in a masculine position. So that's never been my intention, and I'm hoping that perhaps by veiling it can represent how God is my cover, how I am speaking and reading out of conviction from God, who covers me instead of me being in some sort of leadership position. So this is just an act of humility for me right now for this video. It's so out of my comfort zone, I'm not used to it.
I think this clip is absolutely adorable, and it makes me really cheer Melanie Mack on more. Not that I'm taking any credit, but I've been praying for her. All credit goes to Jesus Christ. Praise be to Jesus Christ. Melanie couldn't be in better hands right now. I've been rooting these two ladies on for a long time because someone like Tomi Lahren could really take some notes out of their playbook. Ever since Melanie has started her Bible channel, I've noticed her faith has been evolving. Someone just needs to take her to a traditional Latin mass in her area, if she has one in her area. I would love to take her to mine, just so she knows what she's been missing her whole life. I'd take her on a day when she gets to hear my nuns sing. God bless my nuns. I love them with a supernatural love. Okay, they're not my nuns, but you know what I mean. Hey, this is actually perfect because I've been criticizing Tomi Lahren, which can be seen as a negative, but giving hopeful praise to two other women so the positive can outweigh the negatives here. Maybe if Tomi Lahren applied the same philosophy by giving 2 to 3 praises for each one criticism she makes of men, then her whole outlook on life would be different. She would stop calling men trash. Pray for Tomi Lahren.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Ciao for now. God bless. And Ave Maria.